The early Commonwealth had several interesting units that would later be the subject of legends and traditions. In this series we will take an in-depth look at some of the more famous units of the Minutemen. In this episode we will look at the 4th, 13th, and Scout companies of the Minutemen, their histories, commanders, and battles that each were involved in. Unlike the first Minuteman company that recruited from across the Commonwealth, the 4th was made up entirely from veteran Minutemen that served before the sole survivor became general. Many older Minutemen had their doubts about the sole survivor's ability to lead the Minutemen, and many did not want to be trained by a former Brotherhood officer that might be a synth. Captain Ronnie Shaw personally went out into the countryside and recruited many of these holdouts into the 4th, promising that she would lead them into battle personally. As a commander, Captain Shaw has a rather cantankerous character and is easily angered. She demands that her troops achieve all the goals that she sets out for them, and does not abide excuses. Often yelling while personally leading her troops into battle, the company earns the nickname the Angry Eagles. Despite not being trained like the other companies, the 4th proved itself the equal of the 3rd Minutemen, often fighting side by side with the 3rd in some of the toughest battles of the Gunner and Raider Wars. During the Far Harbor intervention, the 4th faced off against Baker Company of the 2nd Gunner Guards. They held the pass but took heavy casualties and finished the war garrisoning Acadia. Now they and the 1st Minutemen guard the southern border of the Commonwealth, waiting for a possible super-mutant invasion. Created to solve the problem of overpopulation in Commonwealth prisons, the 13th was made up from raiders, gunners, and the common criminal population of the Commonwealth. Prisoners were promised their freedom in exchange for 2 years' service. Roughly 100 prisoners took the offer. Command of the 13th was a problem, as no self-respecting Minuteman officer really wanted to command criminals in battle. A solution presented itself in the form of Robert Black, a distant relative of a prominent Diamond City family. It is rumored but not proven, that the family discreetly purchased Robert's commission from President Hancock. The company was formed and outfitted. As the logistics corps feared that the convicts might sell their weapons and armor, they were issued older and used equipment, as well as weapons picked up from various battlefields. In August of 2291, and with nothing but the most basic of training, the 13th was shipped off to Far Harbor. The results were probably predictable, as a couple of weeks later the company was ambushed by trappers in southern Far Harbor. The unit failed miserably in their first battle. Captain Black was wounded and refused to take charge of the company as some prisoners deserted the unit. In late August Colonel Garvey arrived to assess the situation. He placed Captain Dancer in charge of the 13th. Along with Sergeant Reese, they imposed brutal discipline on the unit, possibly going as far as executing a couple of the more troublesome recruits. The harsh training was necessary, as in less than a month later the 13th found itself defending the settlement of Acadia from a mixed force of trappers, children of Atom Zealots, and Gunner Special Forces. Captain Dancer along with most of his command was killed, but the position was held. Only 10 troopers remained fit for duty. The extremely reduced 13th spent the rest of the Far Harbor campaign as garrison troops. They returned to the Commonwealth where a fresh crop of criminals joined, hoping to shorten their prison sentences. For the next 2 years, the 13th was assigned a post on the northern border, guarding the Commonwealth from raider attacks, and doing a terrible job. They had seemingly returned to their previous bad habits. No permanent commander was assigned, and the 13th was commanded by a series of lieutenants from other companies, with none lasting longer than a month. Finally in 2294, it was decided that the Commonwealth would enter New Hampshire to end the raider menace from the north. A 29-year-old lieutenant from the 3rd Minutemen named John Pears took command of the 13th. He had been promised a captain's rank, and a new company at the end of the war, if he successfully led the troubled unit. Pears had taken to heart many of the lessons preached by Captain Dancer. He emulated Dancer's tough command style. Although only 5 foot 7 inches tall, he earned the fear and respect of the company of criminals. Eager to show his mettle, he led a platoon of the 13th to relieve the besieged 11th Minutemen. Although they never reached the 11th, they did relieve the pressure on the battered unit. Pears died in combat, but his determination impressed even his enemies, who allowed the survivors to take his body home. Seemingly inspired by their commander's sacrifice, the 13th now waits for a new commander that can handle the problematic unit. When the Minutemen began training to take on the gunners in early 2288, Captain Dancer realized that he would need first-hand intelligence about the enemy to formulate a plan of action. He chose 2 squads of the most experienced veterans and hunters in the Minuteman ranks to spy on the gunner forces around the Commonwealth. For 6 months they silently mapped every gunner stronghold and tracked their daily habits. When September arrived, the Minutemen knew the gunner routines better than the gunners themselves. They used this knowledge to launch a massive surprise attack on September 1st. After the war, recognizing the need for battlefield intelligence, the Scouts were formed as a separate military unit and became the Scout Platoon. They again proved their worth during the Raider War by providing valuable intelligence not just to the Minutemen but to their Brotherhood allies. After most of the Brotherhood left the Commonwealth, the Scouts set up a training base at Fort Strong. They developed advanced tactics such as covert ops, hostage rescue, and counter-insurgency warfare. But as their motto, Oculus in Tenebris or Our Eyes in the Dark indicated, their primary role was to provide battlefield information for the Minutemen. Later in 2290, the Scouts were expanded to a full company. Captain Wendy Prescott leads the Minutemen Scouts. She transferred in from the 1st Minutemen. Despite the controversy over her age, she has proven to be a good officer. Her leadership on Far Harbor stabilized the situation and allowed the Commonwealth the time needed to bring additional forces to the island. Minutemen Scouts planned and participated in the destruction of the Trapper fleet at Southwest Harbor, as well as holding the Pinecrest Caverns against their counterparts, the Gunner Rangers. After the conflict, the Brotherhood of Steel recognized their prowess by asking that the Scouts be loaned to them for their conflict in the capital Wasteland. The Commonwealth Congress also recognized their ability by increasing their budget and authorizing the creation of a second Scout company. Their expertise and professionalism has been put to good use in the New Hampshire campaign. In the next installment we will look at the 6th Field Artillery, the Power Armor Company, and the Commonwealth Marines.